Hello everyone, welcome back to another Ableton tutorial. Big shout out YouTube gang, big shout out Patreon gang. So today I got a question on YouTube about Tim Hecker. If you've seen much of what I do on this channel, you'll probably guess that I'm a big Tim Hecker fan. And if you are a fan of this channel and you haven't come across Tim Hecker, then I'm very jealous of you because you get to explore Tim's music for the first time. Wow, what a treat that would be. So the question was about some Tim Hecker inspired ideas, and I thought that could be interesting. But I'm going to start by talking about somebody else entirely. I'm going to start by talking about Nuno Bettencourt. Now, when I was sort of 13 or 14, I was super into playing guitar and shredding and all of that stuff. And I was a big fan of a band called Extreme. Nuno is the guitarist in Extreme, so I would sort of read all of the interviews I could find and check out what he had to say about stuff. And, I would then also learn the songs. I had the tablature books and I would, try and figure out how to shred guitar and play this stuff. But then I saw this interview with Nuno and he said, when he was learning, he was listening to bands like Van Halen and Led Zeppelin. And there was no, to paraphrase him, there's no YouTube tutorials then or TikTok videos or stuff like this saying this is how you play this song. But instead he sort of had to sit and just try and figure it out for himself. And as a result, he came up with different ways and different techniques of trying to play what he was hearing. And I thought that actually really transfers into the way that I think about exploring my own musicking. I will very, very rarely go to a video that says, make this exact sound from this exact song, you can remake it, because, what's the point? The song's already been made. I'm much more interested in people going, this is an idea that was inspired by this, but sort of I took it off in this direction, and look what happened. That's a kind of a long rambling preamble to today's video, but what I wanted to do today was, something that I sort of was inspired by Tim Hecker a bit to explore a little bit, which is splitting sound. Now, full disclosure, I don't actually know if this is something that Tim does. I was just listening to some of his stuff and thinking, how has that happened? What's going on there? Kind of sounds as if the sound is being split apart, and then thought, let's split sound apart. Let's treat different parts of the same sound in different ways. So what I wanted to explore today is 4 little mini racks that I've made, sound splitters, 4 different ways in which we can split sounds apart, and then maybe a couple of ideas. You heard some stuff in the intro. I'm going to show you those ideas and what I've done with the splitting of the sound. So to begin with, I've just got a cello here. It's a friend of mine, Miko, playing. Thanks, Miko. And it sounds like a cello. So I thought of there's 4 ways in which we can split a sound. There might be more. If there's more, drop a comment below. But so I thought we can split sounds into high and low frequencies. We can split sounds into sort of loud and quiet. We can split sounds into mid and side, and we can split sounds into left and right. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. So we've got this cello sound. First thing I could do is, of course, split sounds into left and right. So if I bring a utility onto this channel, I can select just the left-hand side. So I'm going to, put that into a group, Command G, duplicate that. And on this second utility, I'm going to select only the right-hand side, and I'm going to pan those to their appropriate sides. And so now, when I press play on here, I can isolate the left-hand side and I can isolate the right-hand side, which, by itself is nothing so remarkable, but it means I can treat those 2 sides differently. For instance, I could now, if I rename this left, and I can rename that right, something to really show how obvious you can be. Let's put a crazy distortion on one hand side. Let's give it a lot of drive, and let's bring the output down so we don't blow up the world. On the right hand side, what shits and giggles, let's put a huge reverb, and let's make that 100% dry wet. Actually, it doesn't sound. I was expecting that to sound super weird. I was expecting that to sound a lot weirder than it did. So that's a nice way that we can split sound apart. Let's delete that. We can also split sound into mid-side. Again, we would do that using a utility, basically the same technique. if you right click on this width button here, you'll go mid-side mode, and then we select one to be the mid, we select one to be the side, and then again we can treat the mid as, let's do that. So this is the mid group, and then let's duplicate that, and on this one select only the sides. Here, the difference between those two, there's a bit of stereo information on this, I think. So we've got the middle signal and the side signal, which is super nice. So then we could put a reverb only on the side. So now the reverb's only happening on that side signal, or we could put also a redux on the side signal. Kind of interesting. So that's another way that we can split sound apart. Of course, we can split sound using EQ as well. We would do a similar technique, put this on a high pass, and then put a duplicate. Duplicate that, but I want to disengage number 1, I want to engage number 8 on a similar, the 4 times slope. Is this on the 4 times slope? Yep. Then I'll just map those two things to the same macro. So I've now got crossover EQ. The high frequencies and the low frequencies. And that means I can treat those, again, I can now treat those differently. So, and so for instance, perhaps on the high frequencies, well, let's just delay the high frequencies. Let's use an echo. Quite an interesting effect. What happens if we then put a beat repeat or something weird on the low frequencies? Let's add some variation. So that's another way in which we can separate sound, and then we can separate sound using loud and quiet, and for that, of course, we're going to use a noise gate. So again, very simply, you're going to group that, open this up, right-click, map to macro 1. We're going to turn the floor all the way down. Let's map to macro 2. Let's map you to macro 3. Map you to macro 4. Then we're going to open up the chain list and duplicate, and on the second one we're just going to hit this flip button. So now we have a way of splitting the sound into loud and quiet parts. So we could treat the loud sound, which is the loud sound. This is loud. And then obviously the bottom one is quiet. So then perhaps we would do something like only put a reverb on the loud sounds, or only put a delay on the loud sounds. What does it sound like if we put a grain delay only on the loud sounds? Weird. Let's give it a bit more. Kind of interesting. So yeah, those are the 4 ways of that I came up with of dividing sounds and treating them differently. Patreon members on the entry-level €3 tier can download these 4 racks I made: a high-low splitter, a loud-quiet splitter, a mid-side splitter, and a stereo splitter. But let's now take a look at some ways in which I used those. So here's again that same cello. And on this, I just used a loud-quiet splitter. On the loud sounds, it's a raw with some feedback. So you can hear it's sort of only getting triggered every now and then. And on the quiet sounds, I put a lovely reverb. So together, we get this real sort of coming and going of the sound and these sort of really interesting ways in which different parts of the sound are being treated differently. Okay, let's stop that. Oh, now let's take a look at this. This is a glockenspiel without anything on. It sounds like that. This one is quite a subtle one, I think. So I did this with a mid-side split. And on the mid-signal, just a little bit of echo, just to give it a bit of space. And on that echo, I added a little bit of delay on the left and right signal, so it turns it into a really nice stereo echo. Might be nice with a little bit of reverb as well. And on the sides, I've used a corpus in here. Yes, that's just selecting the sides. We've then got a corpus, and that is going into the corpus. It just has a little bit of modulation on the inharmonics with an LFO there, and that's going into another raw, again with some feedback happening, which is giving us those really weird, nice sounds. And then I used the align delay to make that super stereo without that, and then turning that back on. So it gives us this really interesting layer on top of the sound. So another really interesting way of creating textures and sounds, splitting the sound into its two components. Oh, we got a lovely little resonating harmonic there. Okay, some more ways, some drum stuff. This is two fairly simple ways. I thought it wasn't going to do anything there. So this is a stereo splitter, and on that stereo splitter, I've made a beat repeat rack. So the two different left and right are being treated differently by the beat repeat rack. So every now and then they will happen together. Sometimes they come back into the middle. So we get this real sort of flibbing and flobbing sound. I kind of like that. It's fun. Another way we could do it with drums. This I've used the high-low splitter, and a similar thing. I've just put a beat repeat only on the highs, but I can change the crossover here. Which is a nice effect as well. And this third one here, I've used again a high-low splitter, but what I've done here is on the lows, I put an envelope shaper. That's it. So obviously that's not changing the sound at all. And I've used that envelope shaper to control on the highs, just the drive going into the distortion. So if I turn that off and turn it back on, it's a lovely little mix technique. So it really feels like when the stronger parts of a drum groove are hitting, the kick and the snare, everything else is sort of just breaking up and distorting a little bit, like the speaker's breaking. But then when it goes, that distortion also goes, and we get back to sort of a more natural sound. I really like that technique. Okay, another approach here. What have we got going on? Yeah, this is me playing a woodblock. And you can see here again, I've split it into loud and quiet. So the quiet just has a little bit of reverb on it. The loud is what's creating this. So the gate, yeah, that's just splitting it into the loud and quiet. I've used my live glitch effects rack. This is a free download. Let's turn off the spectral time so you can hear what that's doing. So that's doing some, turning it into this kind of stuff. Fun. Link in the description below if you want to download that rack. And then adding a spectral time after it with the delay off, re-trigger on sensitivity, and using the fade in and fade out mode. So it's creating these sort of sheets. Actually, maybe that'd be nice with a little bit of reverb after that as well. Where have you gone? Reverb. Yeah, that gives it even a bit more context. So we're getting these swells that are coming from this woodblock. And the last idea here, I've actually made a MIDI rack. Oh, this is fun. So let's turn the rack off. So what's going on here in the MIDI? Well, let's press stop, actually. So I've got some samples here from an EMF sample pack that I just made. That's available on the Patreon. I went out with some electromagnetic frequency microphones, and we get all kind of cool sounds like this. Super fun. So I just loaded one of those sounds in. I think it was that one actually. Yeah, the petrol station sound. Used slice mode and then just using a random chance to randomly select slices, arpeggiator to do the speed of those. And the main thing here is the velocity, which is turned right up on the volume to velocity on the synth. So we're getting like a huge range in velocity coming out of that. So then using the loud quiet splitter here. The quiet has got nothing going on. But the loud has this huge reverb. Actually, I did the old classic reverb, distortion reverb chain. So let's go to the end of the chain and turn things off. So first is this reverb. And then we have some distortion after that. And then after that, another reverb. So we get these super washes of sound because, of course, what the distortion is doing is adding more harmonics. So we're taking a sound that already has a lot of harmonics because of the reverb, adding a whole bunch more harmonics, and then reverbing that again. So you get these lovely washes of sound. And this, and then at the end of the whole thing, I've got a compressor sidechaining that against the incoming signal. We could make that super. Actually, that's also quite nice. So there you go. Not such a long video today, but so I wanted to explore these ideas of, splitting sounds. These are just a few very, very basic ideas. Would love to hear what you're exploring with this. Some cool chains that you've thought of to do on different parts of different sounds. Of course, we can combine these as well. We can use a mid-high splitter and then also a mid-side splitter on that as well and get some interesting results. So yeah, I would love to hear what cool chains you came up with, what cool things you explored. Thanks for the question. And thanks for the chance to talk a little bit about splitting sound apart. See you next time.